Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I'm one of your co-hosts, Willie Blake. I'm here with my other co-host, Mr. Ian Stermer, and we're going into our fourth episode of such a great book, a timeless book by Dale Carnegie, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People. We've talked about authentic communication. We've talked about like the likability factor. We've talked about how to be aligned with ourselves. And today we're going to talk about win-win. How to truly win. How to help make people like the things that you suggest. And not in a manipulative, negative type way, but in the way of influence, in the way of win-winning. And of course, Ian, you know as well as I do, we can't talk about win-win without bringing up 7 habits of highly effective people. Like, that's one of the habits with that Stephen R. Covey goes into. Because win-win, you have, I know he goes into the different ones, which is you got lose-lose, which if you're making a deal with somebody, at the end of it, you just both lose. It just doesn't work out. You have win-lose or lose-win, where one party gets what they want and the other one really suffers because of it. Then you got win-win, which win-win is both parties get what they want. And if that can't happen, there's a little other attachment to it, which is or no deal. You walk away, everything is fine. It's just that doesn't work with the expectations that you have for the deal. So, win-win or no deal. Mixing two great books together. And I'll throw it over to you. When you think of win-win, when you think of the ability to help people love the things that you suggest, what comes to mind? You're muted, by the way.
You got to be unmuted if you want to talk. There's the first lesson in this. And if you hit the button really fast, it unmutes and mutes again. Okay,
Facts.
let me start over. I did some training with a company last year in solar. And I was talking to the sales reps and kind of explaining how they needed to fit things together. And I would say, it's got to be a win-win-win-win. And they were selling solar panel systems to go on people's houses, and said, okay, it's got to make sense for everybody for this to be a good deal. The customer, the homeowner, has to be saving money. If they're not saving money, then you're not helping them out. They're not getting a win. Now, at the same time, you're putting time and effort. You need to earn a commission on it. So if you're not making a commission, it's not a win for you. So both of you have to be happy. If you're out there and never saving the customer money, you're going to go out of business because you're never going to sell if you're not giving a win to the customer. And if you price it so that you don't get any commission, you give such a good deal to the customer, well, you're going to go out of business because you don't have money to pay for rent and eating. So you have to balance giving them as much as you can while giving you what you need to. And then in the end, the company we work for wins because they have to make enough profit to be in business. If they don't make enough profit, then they go out of business and the customer can't win because there's no solar panel company to sell to them. You're going to lose because you don't have a job anymore if you haven't given the company what they need from it. So everyone has to be able to get something out of that, or else the whole system just collapses. if you are so greedy to get the biggest commission you always can, customers are going to see that. They're not going to have a trust in you, and your business, it might do great for a few days or weeks or a month, but it's going to collapse because you're not putting the other people into a win position as well. And somebody else is going to come along and undercut you because they're being more ethical, and you're going to lose your business. So you've got to want the other side to win. And at the same time, you have to be able to get enough for you to continue to survive and meet your needs as well. Too much on either side just makes it collapse. It's kind of a pyramid. You take away one side, the whole thing's going to fall down.
So. Pyramid. So just so you know, a win-win is a pyramid scheme. And if you
Yes.
take one side and it pays the other person, the higher you go. No, it's true. And I had this thought as you were talking of, it's to the observer what a win is. And most people who, like Ian, you and I read a lot of books. We have a podcast about it.
Yeah.
We read at least 12 books a year, right? Because we do
Right.
a book a month. And that's above average for most people reading books. I think the average is, the last time I saw the stats, about four books a year, which awesomely has increased since a decade ago, which was like 1 or 2. But not many people talk about self-improvement and personal growth and win-win and how to be proactive and create an alignment and doing things with purpose, and like all these terms that I hear literally every single day, because that's the content I bring in. That's what I listen to and read. Those are the people I hang out with. We talk about growing. We talk about making money, and we talk about how to make a better world and live our why, and all these terms. We're really in like a top 1 or 2% of people who talk about that all the time. The other 98% of people, they're like, I'm doing this and I got to make sure I get a win out of this. Or in their terms, it's like, this has to be a good deal for me. If it's not a good deal for me, I'm just not going to do it. So coming from our perspective of knowing what a win-win is, like it's all to the observer. Most people will be like, yeah, I want to win. I don't care about the other side. But when we go into negotiations, we know we got to figure out what their win is, and we got to make sure that we are also winning. Or we just walk away happy and there's no deal that goes with it. But it's so interesting that it comes back to the person in which who you are either talking to, or the person who is in that situation, that they might not even think that you got to do win, 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 win. But in their mind, they're like, I just have to win, which can be used so that they can win and you can win and other people can win as well.
Yeah. There's a concept called zero sum. And a lot of people think the world is a zero sum. If you have something, that means I cannot have it. I think there's a finite amount. If there's a pie and you have that pie, then there's no pie for me. Sorry, I'm already hungry today. But most things in the world will grow. If you have $1 and I don't have one, then you only have that. But if you give me that $1 for an object, I give you that object, we both won. You have the object you want and I have that $1. And when you look at the whole economy, that $1 is passed on to the next person. And every time that $1 is spent, it actually grows. It doesn't shrink. More people have that. So we grow more money, the more money is used. The economy continues to grow. We all have more in our bank account than, at least we should, than our grandparents had, because there's more money and wealth in the world right now. And when we realize that by helping other people, we're growing that pie bigger and bigger. we're not taking away from what we could have, but we're increasing the amount that's actually out there. Henry Ford understood this principle. When he started making the Model T, he started to pay his workers enough that they could afford to buy the cars they were making. Now, in true economics, just that by itself is foolish, because he loses too much money. He's paying out the money to get back, and it doesn't work out. But what that did was put his cars out on the street so people could see those cars, to build up a demand, to let people say, hey, I can, if this factory worker can afford it, I can probably afford it. And to build up a whole concept and demand for these cars that used to be only the very wealthy could afford to have. So by giving up that salary, he was creating a win for his employees, that they could afford to have these cars that they were building, and they could have a sense of pride of what they were doing. It also built up a whole demand and marketing side for these cars that would not have been there. If he had said, no, I want to make sure I get the most profit out of every car, he would have only sold a very few cars. But he realized by creating a win for his employees and bringing down the cost of the cars, creating a win for consumers, he created a greater win for himself than he would have had he stayed with what everyone else was doing, of trying to build one great car at a time. So he understood that that whole thing grows. The more you create wins for other people, the more the whole pie grows bigger, and everyone gets more wins.
Yeah, it's I know John has said it quite a bit. He says, best way for you to get this successful, or you to get what you want, is to help other people get what they want. Because if you help enough other people to get what they want, you'll eventually get what you want, just out of reciprocity.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
You did. Very good.
First try. Go me. Never usually happens that way.
Yeah. Take that, dyslexia. You lose.
Okay. Take that. Friday is 1, dyslexia 0 for me today. It's a great theory. Let's just put this in that. Like, win-win, great theory. We talked about it. But like, actually nitty-gritty of the practical side, going inside of it. What are some examples we can give of actually a win-win situation? Or what are some tips that we can give when it comes to actually creating the environment that other people get what they want, but we also get what we want as well? And one that pops up into my mind, and then I'll throw it to you, Ian, is the community that we have with Champion Circle. Because with Champion Circle, we have a community of entrepreneurs and business owners that are together. And when we go into our roundtables, we go in there thinking that we're just going there, maybe like another professional event. It's going to be cool, and there's going to be some stuff. I can tell you, every single time I come out of that, it's just like, I got value. I know exactly what I need to do next. And it just costs me a monthly membership. Like, that is worth it to me to be able to get that, plus the accountability and plus coaching. So like, when it comes to the services and products that we have as a business, the price tag that we have from it really goes back to the caveman days of bartering, of what is bartering. Now we have dollars, and now we just barter dollars for items and things as such. But really it comes down to, like, what is that trade-off? Are you trading something? Is the products and services that you have, is that outweighing the value that they see, so that when they hand you $200 or $300 a month, they're just like, yeah, this is a freaking no-brainer, because the ROI on this is just way much more. So that's just one example. Ian, any come to your head?
Yeah. I love what you said there, and the idea of value. And I'll get to an example in just a second. But what is the value of something? Well, the value of something is only what you can really get for it. You know, if I'm back in the caveman days and I figure out how to make a basket and I make 100 baskets, well, they're pretty useless unless I find something to trade them for. Because once I have the basket, I can't really eat the basket. But if I can trade that to Willie the hunter, who will bring me some good mastodon woolly mammoth meat to eat, and I'll give you a basket. Now there's a value. I've won by giving you that basket. I could have kept it and shown everyone how beautiful my baskets are and felt great and then starved to death. Or I can trade that to you, and you have that meat that you could only carry a little bit. Now with that basket, you can carry so much more, and you can trade more meat to someone else because you can get it there. And now we've both grown to be bigger. So that's not a real life example from my life, but because I haven't ever tried woolly mammoth meat. But there's that idea that what you have of value, you give to someone else so that they can create more value from it. And, I can't do this podcast on win-win without going into Stephen Covey. But in 7 Habits, he gives, I think, one of the greatest simplified examples of that. He was talking to a grocery store owner, and this grocery store owner said, you can't have win-win. You've got to come out ahead. You've got to make money. You've got to, get the most you can out of a deal. And Stephen Covey said, well, if you want the most out of it, what if you just triple all your prices so you make so much more profit? And the grocery store owner said, well, no, they're not going to shop at my place. They're going to go out. I'm going to go out of business. They're all going to go to my competitor. He says, okay, well, what if you sell everything at your own cost so you have the lowest price? He goes, well, that's not going to work. I'm going to go out of business if I can't make any money. He goes, oh, so you've got to give your customers a good deal and you've got to earn money. You've got to help them to win by getting a good price, and you've got to win by earning some money. So it sounds like that win-win is actually what we're all trying to do. It's such a simple concept, but when you don't care about the other side, it's going to collapse on you. And a situation I'm in right now, a friend of mine reached out to me knowing I have a background in insurance and said, oh, I just got this policy. This guy sold it to me. And he told me this policy did A, B, and C. And I just found out that this policy does not do those things. He basically lied to me. And I've been paying this money on it. And this policy isn't what he told me now that he's looked at it closely. And this is a person who's a little bit older and maybe didn't have the full understanding going into it. Now this agent who sold that policy is going to be facing some consequences because he was only looking at himself and thinking, hey, I can push this past this guy and get a nice commission and I'll make lots of money and this guy will never know about it. By the time he finds out the life insurance policy doesn't pay much, well, he's dead, so it'll never come back to me. Unbeknownst to him, this guy brought it up to me, and now there's some consequences that this guy is not only losing the policy, but he may face some legal consequences for the ethics board because he cared about himself, not putting the customer first. And it might work in the short term, but it's not going to help somebody in the long term. You can't win if you're not putting other people up there as a win as well. That pyramid is going to collapse, that pyramid scheme, and you're going to get buried under the rubble of whatever. I'll stop my analogy there.
No, I love your examples because they're very relatable. Because they were both, it was like the good and the bad side. With the grocery store, it's just helping people realize that we just use different terms to mean the same thing. With the grocery store owner, he's like, no, I got to maximize profit. I got to make sure I'm making money. And Stephen Covey's like, well, actually, what if you sell everything at cost? He's like, well, I'm not going to make money. I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, what if you triple your prices? Well, then no one's going to be there. So it's interesting that there's this, I don't like to use the word golden line that we're trying to figure out because it feels like it's always moving. So it's more like an area. But there's always just this in between of the value that we give people and the value that we get back. And being able to balance those in whatever way it looks like is how we optimize everything. And I think you mentioned something really important, which is short term versus long term. Short term, that insurance agent's like, yeah, I got a quick check. Awesome. I'll be able to, we'll give the best intentions. I'll be able to provide for my family this month. Well, because you're just doing the short term and getting one over on this other person being like, yeah, they won't matter to them. They're older. They have money to be able to spend, whatever it is. Well, now the short-term consequences are catching up to them long-term. And now they are worse off because they were short-term focused. So having that longer vision in mind in every interaction that we do is very valuable, because even though short-term we might get the advantage, long-term it might be a major disadvantage. So keeping that long-term in sight, very important.
Yeah. And I think Dale Carnegie actually has a great example of that in this very book of How to Win Friends and Influence People. As I was researching this, he was teaching these classes about public speaking and the concepts of how to win friends and influence people. And he was making money by teaching classes. And I forget who it was. If somebody knows, they can put it in the comments. Came and said, oh, you need to put this in a book and write a book about this. And Carnegie said, well, if I do that, they're not going to come to my class and I'm going to lose money. So I'm not going to be able to make the money if I just put it in a book and people can read it and it can be at a library, and I'm going to lose out then. But eventually he realized that there was some benefit in this. And he wrote this book, which is sold, I think it's like 40 million copies. This book is sold. And the royalties on that are enormous. And his speaking fees, I'm sure, went up a lot, and more people wanted to attend his seminars, and everything grew from that. When he realized that by creating a bigger win for the public, by providing this information at a cheaper price, a lower price for them, and more convenient for them, it didn't take away from what he would earn from his concepts and his intellectual property. It actually grew that immensely. And when we have that idea that the more we're going to help someone else out, the more that's going to grow ourselves too. So there's a selfishness involved in win-win, believe it or not. It's not giving away everything. There's a selfishness that we're going to gain more as we give more. And as much as I would love all of us to be altruistic and simply want to give and not care about ourselves, the fact is we both have needs we need to cover to survive, and we have wants. We want to grow bigger. We want to have some luxuries and some nice things. There's nothing wrong with being selfish as long as we are honestly giving and wanting to help other people at the same time, and finding that balance between the two. The more I can help someone, the more I can grow. Look at Alex Hormozi in any of his videos. I'm going to give you $10 million worth of advice for free because a few of you are going to come back. I'm exaggerating. A few are going to come back to me and pay me $100 million for my advice. And I'm going to make more money by giving away a ton of stuff, because some of you are going to come back and pay me 2 tons of money for that personalized side. And the world is a better place, I think, because Alex Hormozi does that. And he's helped me out with me borrowing his book from the library. Okay, I went out and bought him later on, but I did support him. But the idea that help other people and it's going to help you, whether you simply want to help other people or whether you're trying to maximize your profit, it's done by creating a win for the other side as well.
Yes. And when you were talking about being selfish, it goes back to the eye of the beholder. It's the one who's looking at it. because let's talk about the needs of somebody. When people need something, they need water, they need food, they need shelter to be able to survive. They need that. But if I were to give away everything that I have to help another person but can't take care of myself, I'm going to be unable to help even more after that. So it's having that long-term perspective of, well, me getting my needs covered, of having the food, having the water, having the shelter, helps me so that I can be able to, in the future, help more people out. And Alex Hormozi, fantastic example. It broke the internet pretty literally when he did his first book, and he did the whole funnel thing of, you get this value, and this is it's like a couple $1,000s. And wait, here's another thing that you get. You also get this ebook series that you can put in, and you also get our community, and you also get these black books of sales, and like all these different things. He's like, and you're not just going to get it for $8,000. You're not going to get it for $6,000 or even $3,000. And I remember it. Everyone in their heads are just thinking, okay, where's the amount? Can I pay for it? And Alex did such an amazing job where I know a lot of people were like, as long as it's under like $2,000, I'm just like, I'll jump in and buy it just because of what he's done in value. But he's like, but it's not even $2,000. What you get is, and then he has the long pause, you can get all this for $0. It's for free. It's my gift to you. And I remember that broke the internet. The flood of the comment section of just blown away of a webinar that someone holds. And I think this was like the first time, at least in what I can remember, of someone giving so much on a webinar for free. It's like, I got emotional at that time of, I've been given a break. I didn't have to pay for all of this elite premium stuff. Alex is doing it for free, giving it to me. But also, in turn, he knows that the more I can give long term, people are going to be able to make their lives better. And when they create the business that is like 3 to 10 million, that then he'll be the person that they go to when they want to do acquisition stuff and go things like that. So it is such long-term value of, when you are focused on the long term, your actions today are different. Yeah, there's just, man, I got myself going in that moment too. It's a real thing. It's the true nature of win-win. It's never short and in the moment. It's always what's going to be the best in the future, and that should affect the action in which I take today.
Yeah. So I had my credit card out at about the 2,000 mark for Alex Hormozi.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. Just come on, let me know the price so I can put it in, because he had built up that value. But yeah, it's that, you could see he wanted to help people, and he was willing to do that. And it was a good business model. There's no doubt he's made a ton of money. And if he had sold it for $2,000 to a bunch of us out there, he would have made a little money. But he got the $100 million companies coming into him, paying him huge amounts. And the great thing is I get to benefit from them paying all the money to Alex. So he puts more content out that I can access for free. So it's a win-win. And me being on the webinar in a little bit supported him to build up his presence and build up his credibility. So there's win-win can be tiny little things. It can be big things, but it's honestly comes down to respecting the other person. Recognizing that if the other person comes out ahead, we've come out ahead as well. We all build things together. I'm trying not to go into cliches, but a rising tide lifts all boats. Um, quite often as our customer gets better, that improves our side, and looking to help the other person in the end is just going to help us as well. So be good people, be ethical. It's what it all comes down to. I'll finish up with just a simple ethical story for it, or comparison.
Yeah.
Ford Motor Company, back under the Lee Iacocca days, had I think it was the Pinto, that he said that has to be under a certain dollar amount to build this car. And there was a safety piece that would have put it $1 over the cost that he had set for him. So he said, no, leave that off. We don't need to worry about it. And they did this calculation that if X number of people died in an accident because of this piece, because if they were rear-ended, it could cause the gas tank to ignite. X number of people could die versus the cost of fixing it. And they said it's cheaper to pay out the people that die. And that news got out. And as you can imagine, that had a huge effect on their sales. And they lost a lot of money because of that. On the flip side, Tylenol, back in the 80s, I believe it was, somebody poisoned a couple of Tylenol bottles and a few people died. And Tylenol said, I don't care what the cost is, we are recalling every bottle of Tylenol that we have sold. Every bottle out there we are taking back. We fixed packaging. They spent millions of dollars to fix this problem. That wasn't even their fault. It was some wacko out there who, unfortunately, we still don't know who it was. They said, we're going to take care of the customer first. And their sales went up after this because people had a trust in what they were doing. They created a win because they cared about the other side more than their own side. And that allowed them to grow even bigger and bigger. And everyone came out better. And I have fewer headaches now because of that. So I won as well.
Yeah. And that the ability to have integrity, ability to, when things go wrong, to make it right, and to just really help out, but make sure you're also covered. All of it goes into win-win. Win-win-win-win-win. That's what it should always be. So, challenge for you listeners is to think about the interactions that you are having in your life. Think about the moments where you might be that one person who says, I just need a quick short-term victory. Look at it and think, is it worth it? Or if I change my actions a little bit, would it affect me better in the future? And then you get to decide whether it's that short term or you go to what we've been talking about of win-win. So look at those and see if you can make a better choice today. And with that, wraps up this episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcasting platform. As well as you can go to the website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll be able to find the link to our podcast, link to our socials, and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, continue to be a champion in your life. Continue to find those win-win situations, and always remember that a real win doesn't need a loser. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.